When the noise of the world tries to pull you into its chaos, when people attempt to provoke you, distract you, or pull you down to their level, remember this great truth: your power is not in reaction but in direction. The moment you react, you hand over the authority of your inner world to something or someone outside of you. But the moment you remain still, silent, unmoved, you reclaim the throne of your own consciousness. Silence is not weakness. Silence is not surrender. Silence is mastery. It is the quiet declaration that nothing outside of you has the right to dictate your emotional state. Every time you choose not to react, you rise above the old patterns that once controlled you. You step into a higher state of being, one built on intention rather than impulse. When someone tries to trigger you, they are testing the borders of your inner kingdom. But you are not here to defend those borders with anger or argument. You defend them with awareness. You protect them with restraint. You guard them by refusing to entertain anything that lowers your state. The greatest cut off is silence, because it removes your energy from their influence while preserving your inner peace. Cutting someone off silently does not mean hatred. It does not mean bitterness. It does not mean revenge. It means this: I will not allow your energy to shape my inner reality. It means choosing yourself over drama. It means choosing clarity over confusion. It means choosing elevation over entanglement. When you withdraw your attention, you withdraw your power from their hands. You step out of their script and return fully to your own. The mind creates through attention. Whatever you give awareness to expands. So ask yourself, why give energy to someone who drains you? Why react to someone who does not deserve access to your emotions? Why give a moment of your sacred imagination to someone who feeds on chaos? The moment you stop reacting, the moment you cut them off silently, they lose all power in your story. They shrink, fade, dissolve, not because you punished them, but because you no longer sustain them with your focus. When you refuse to react, you refuse to be controlled. When you cut someone off silently, you choose the higher path of self-mastery. You walk away without noise because you have nothing to prove. You disconnect without explanation because your peace speaks louder than any argument. Silence is the language of those who know their worth. It is the armor of the spiritually mature. Every reaction is an investment, and some investments are far too expensive for the return they bring. When you react, you pay with your time, your focus, your energy, your emotional balance. But when you choose silence, you save your power. You preserve your state. You protect the creative center within you. And everything in your life flows from that center. Your inner world is sacred. Your state is sacred. Your imagination is sacred. You must guard them the way a gardener guards the soil where precious seeds are planted. If someone walks into your life with chaos, negativity, or disrespect, you owe them nothing, not a reaction, not a reply, not a justification. Your silence is enough. Your absence is enough. Your boundary is enough. Cutting them off silently does not make you cold, it makes you conscious. It means you finally realize that reacting keeps you tied to the very energy you are trying to rise above. It means you understand that your silence is not a void. It is a creative space. It is where you choose what enters your mind and what exits your life. Your new life begins the moment you stop explaining yourself to those committed to misunderstanding you. It begins the moment you stop arguing with those who enjoy conflict. It begins the moment you stop trying to fix people who have no desire to grow. It begins when you go silent, detach, and walk away. The world will try to pull you into its storms. People will test your patience. Situations will tempt you to react. But you must remain anchored in the truth that your reality is shaped from within, not from without. Every time you choose silence over reaction, you are stepping deeper into your power. Every time you cut someone off without noise, you reclaim your authority over your own life. Move in silence. Protect your state. Guard your energy. Let your lack of reaction be the sign of your evolution. Let your silence be the proof of your strength. And let your detachment open the door to the life you are now ready to create. When you decide not to react and you cut someone off silently, you are doing something far greater than simply walking away. You are reconditioning your inner world. You are teaching your mind that peace is your priority, that dignity is your default, and that you no longer live on the emotional leash of someone else's behavior. You are showing yourself that your inner state is no longer negotiable. There is a hidden law of consciousness. Whatever you do not feed will eventually weaken and disappear. This law applies to people, situations, patterns, and even the emotions within you. When someone brings chaos into your life and you respond with silence, you stop feeding the dynamic that once held you captive. the negativity loses momentum because you no longer give it the energy of reaction. This is why silence is not passive, it is powerful. It dismantles the old structure without engaging in battle. To not react is to say, I am not moved by appearances. I am not controlled by external noise. I choose the state from which I live. This is the true work of inner transformation, because every time you react to negativity, you reinforce it. Every time you stay silent and centered, you rise above it. Detachment is not indifference, detachment is sovereignty. When you cut someone off silently, the mind may try to pull you back into old patterns. It may whisper, shouldn't you explain yourself? Shouldn't you defend your decision? Shouldn't you tell them how they hurt you? But this is the mind longing for its familiar loops. Those loops kept you trapped in cycles of conflict, justification, and emotional exhaustion. You do not need to justify peace. You do not need to defend your self-respect. You do not need to explain your evolution. The silence is the explanation. Those who are meant for your next level will understand your silence. Those who are not will interpret it as distance, arrogance, or coldness. But you must remember this, their interpretation is not your responsibility. You are not responsible for the stories others create about you. You are only responsible for the state you choose to live in. And if silence protects that state, then silence is the correct path. The world is full of people who project their own insecurities into every conversation. Some thrive on conflict, some need control, some cannot exist without drama. When you stop reacting, these individuals lose their access point to your mind. They lose the hooks they used to pull you into their emotional storms. Your silence removes the anchor that once tied you to their chaos. Do not fear the loss of people who crumble when you choose peace. Anyone who falls away because you set boundaries was never aligned with your growth. Anyone who collapses because you stop feeding their ego was never meant to walk with you into your higher state. Cutting someone off silently is not rejection, it is realignment. It is the natural shedding that happens when you rise into a new version of yourself. As you grow in consciousness, your circle will naturally shrink. Not because you become unkind, but because you become precise. Your energy becomes selective. You no longer tolerate emotional parasites. You no longer entertain low-frequency conversations. You no longer engage with people who misunderstand your value. This is not isolation, it is elevation. You are creating space for the relationships that match your new resonance. Silence is the filter through which the unnecessary falls away. There is an inner discipline that develops in you when you stop reacting. You begin to notice that most situations do not require your energy. Most arguments do not need your participation. Most provocations are invitations to stay small. When you decline those invitations, you step into a higher dimension of self-control. And from that dimension, life begins to bend in your favor, not because circumstances changed, but because you did. The greatest shifts in life happen when you no longer allow external conditions to dictate internal ones. The moment someone triggers you and you choose not to react, you create a gap, a sacred space. In that space, you choose your state, you choose your response, you choose your identity, and you create a new pattern. That pattern becomes a habit. That habit becomes your nature. And from that nature, your world transforms. People often believe that silence means weakness, but silence is the language of those who have mastered themselves. Anyone can react. Anyone can argue. Anyone can lash out. These are the actions of those who live on the surface of consciousness. But the ones who choose silence are the ones who have gone deeper. They know that nothing external carries the power to disturb them unless they allow it. They know that their inner state is the source of their reality. They know that to give away their reaction is to give away their creative authority. There is a strength in silent detachment that cannot be replicated by force. When you walk away without noise, without announcement, without emotional outbursts, you are doing something profound. You are shifting your attention back to yourself. Attention is the fuel of creation. Whatever you attend to becomes your experience. Cutting someone off silently is not about them. It is about reclaiming your attention so you can redirect it toward the life you are now ready to create. In silence, you begin to hear your own intuition more clearly. You begin to feel the subtle nudges of your higher self guiding you toward a more peaceful reality. You begin to understand that not every relationship is meant to continue. Not every chapter is meant to be reopened. And not every person deserves access to your inner world. When you detach silently, you open a door within yourself. Through that door flows clarity, calm, and a deeper awareness of who you truly are. You start to see that the behaviors of others are not reflections of your value, but reflections of their state of consciousness. You recognize that some people speak from wounds, some from fear, and some from illusions they have never questioned. And instead of reacting, you rise above. You do not cut them off out of anger. You cut them off because your peace cannot coexist with their chaos. You do not walk away to hurt them. You walk away because staying would hurt you. You do not go silent as punishment. You go silent as protection. Those who genuinely value you will feel your silence and meet you with reflection. Those who do not will reveal themselves through their response. Silence exposes truth in a way words never can. As you move deeper into this way of being, something extraordinary begins to happen. You stop needing closure. You stop needing apologies. You stop needing explanations. You stop needing validation. You no longer depend on others to soothe your emotions because you have learned to soothe yourself. You no longer rely on the world to treat you a certain way because you have learned to treat yourself with respect. This is the freedom that comes from not reacting. Your inner world becomes so stable, so centered, so aligned that the actions of others lose their power to unsettle you. People say what they want, behave how they choose, come and go as they please, but you remain grounded in your truth. And from that grounding, your manifestations begin to unfold with greater ease. Because when your inner state is undisturbed, your creative imagination becomes clearer. When your mind is free from emotional noise, your desires take shape effortlessly. When you stop reacting to what you do not want, you become a magnet for what you do. To not react is to create consciously. To cut someone off silently is to clear the space for a new and better pattern to emerge. You cannot build a palace on ground covered with debris. Silence is the clearing. Detachment is the rebuilding. Peace is the foundation. The more you embrace this way of being, the more you realize that silence is not emptiness. It is fullness. It is the fullness of knowing who you are. It is the fullness of understanding your worth. It is the fullness of mastering your own inner world. And in that fullness, you discover that your life no longer unfolds from reaction, but from intention. You move not from emotional impulse, but from conscious choice. You respond not to the outer world, but to the inner vision you now hold. This is the true meaning of not reacting. This is the true power of cutting someone off silently. It is the reclaiming of your state, your energy, your focus, your imagination, your peace, your life. There comes a moment in your evolution where you realize that every reaction you once offered was a doorway into someone else's world, someone else's chaos, someone else's script. You begin to understand that reacting is a form of permission, a subtle agreement that says, "You may influence my state," but when you reach a higher level of awareness, you withdraw that permission. You stop allowing the external world to shape your internal one. And in that moment, silence becomes your shield, your sanctuary, your declaration of inner authority. To cut someone off silently is not cruelty. It is clarity. You see through their patterns, their projections, their manipulations, and you choose not to participate. You realize that your energy is too precious to be poured into conversations that drain you, arguments that lead nowhere, or relationships that have already served their purpose. You step away not to harm, not to punish, but to preserve yourself. When you choose silence, something powerful happens inside you. You begin to feel the stillness that was always there beneath the noise. You begin to sense the depth of your own presence. You begin to realize that you are far more powerful when you are centered than when you are reacting. This stillness becomes your anchor. It becomes the place you return to whenever the world tries to pull you into storms that are not yours to fight. In silence, you start to see the truth about yourself. You realize that your worth was never dependent on how others treated you. Your value was never measured by someone else's approval, attention, or recognition. Your identity was never meant to be shaped by their opinions. When you go silent, you separate who you are from how they behave. And in that separation, you reclaim every piece of yourself that you once gave away. The old version of you used to chase explanations, closure, reassurance. But now you understand that all those things were attempts to soothe insecurities that no longer exist in the same way. You no longer need someone to apologize to feel whole. You no longer need someone to understand you to feel confident. You no longer need someone to value you to feel worthy. This is the transformation that silence brings. It returns you to yourself. When you stop reacting, you also stop participating in cycles that once kept you stuck. You stop attracting the same lessons disguised as different people. You stop repeating the same emotional patterns. You stop feeding the same wounds with new experiences. Your silence breaks the cycle. It creates a gap, a pause where something new can be chosen. And it is in that pause that your life begins to shift. There will always be people who do not understand your silence, who mistake it for weakness, avoidance, or indifference. But your silence is not for them. It is for you. It is a form of self-respect, a way of saying, I will not lower my vibration to meet someone in their chaos. It is a way of protecting the state that creates your reality. It is a way of honoring the vision you hold for your life. The moment you stop reacting, you become untouchable, not because life stops presenting challenges, but because challenges can no longer reach your center. They come, but they do not enter. They appear, but they do not influence. You see them, but you do not merge with them. You remain the observer, not the participant. You remain the creator, not the reactor. People may try to provoke you, but your silence is a mirror. They see themselves, not you. They may try to guilt you, but your silence reveals their intentions. They may try to pull you back into old dynamics, but your silence shows them that the old version of you no longer exists. You have outgrown the need to explain yourself. Growth made you quiet. Peace made you still. Wisdom made you silent. When you cut someone off silently, you are also cutting off the emotional cords that once tied you to them. Those cords are invisible, but they are powerful. Every thought, every reaction, every memory creates a connection that either strengthens or weakens your inner world. Silence severs the cords. It frees your mind. It releases your heart. It restores your energy. And in that freedom, you begin to attract new people, new opportunities, new experiences that match your elevated state. You begin to realize that silence is not the absence of communication. It is the highest form of communication. It says everything without saying anything. It communicates boundaries without confrontation. It expresses self-worth without explanation. It shows your growth more powerfully than any speech ever could. There is a sacredness in walking away quietly. You leave with your dignity intact. You leave with your energy untainted. You leave without adding more chaos to a situation that already lacked harmony. You leave knowing that your peace is worth more than any argument, more than any closure, more than any attempt to change someone who does not want to change. Cutting someone off silently is not a reaction. It is a decision. It is a conscious act born from self-awareness. You have seen enough, felt enough, learned enough. You know that staying would cost too much, reactiveness would drain too much, explanation would give away too much. So you choose silence, and in doing so, you choose yourself. With silence, you create space. Space for clarity. Space for new patterns to form. Space for your true self to emerge. This space is not empty. It is fertile. It is where your next chapter begins. It is where your energy reorganizes itself. It is where your manifestations gather momentum. Silence is the soil in which the seeds of your future take root. Your inner world becomes lighter as you detach from old emotional entanglements. You begin to feel more aligned, more centered, more grounded. Your intuition sharpens. Your awareness deepens. You begin to notice that life becomes smoother when your reactions dissolve. Opportunities flow more easily. Ideas come more naturally. Relationships improve because you bring a calmer, more stable version of yourself into them. When you master the art of not reacting, you become the calm in the storm. You become the still point around which chaos loses its power. You become the observer who chooses what deserves attention and what does not. And from that place, you create a life that reflects peace, abundance, and intentionality. There will come a moment when you look back at situations that once triggered you deeply, and you will feel nothing. No anger, no sadness, no bitterness, just neutrality. Just understanding, just liberation. This is the miracle of silent detachment. It heals what words could not. It dissolves what confrontation could not. It transforms what reaction never could. You start to see people differently, not as enemies or obstacles, but as teachers. Some teach you patience. Some teach you boundaries. Some teach you self-worth. Some teach you who you no longer want to be. And once you learn the lesson, you move on quietly, carrying only the wisdom, not the wound. Your silence becomes a compass. It directs you toward what aligns with your soul and away from what does not. It leads you toward peace, purpose, and a deeper understanding of yourself. In choosing not to react, you return to your creative power. In cutting someone off silently, you return to your inner sanctuary. This is not withdrawal, it is awakening. This is not avoidance, it is alignment. This is not weakness, it is spiritual strength. And the deeper you move into this state, the more you realize that the true power was never in reacting at all. It was always in your silence. It was always in your ability to remain unmoved. It was always in your choice to protect your peace above all else. Silence becomes a kind of inner revolution when you embrace it fully. It turns everything inside you toward a new direction, away from the old impulses that once governed your reactions. What you once felt compelled to address, explain, justify, or defend suddenly loses its urgency. You begin to feel the strength that comes from choosing peace rather than proving a point. You start to see that every time you refused to react, you were not losing power, you were gaining it. You were reclaiming the authority you had unknowingly handed over to others throughout your life. The more you choose silence, the more you feel your consciousness shifting. You begin to notice the subtle patterns that once dictated your emotions. You may recall moments where a single comment ruined your mood, a single disagreement spiraled into hours of mental replay, a single misunderstanding consumed your thoughts. Now, when those same patterns arise, you watch them like clouds drifting across a calm sky. You observe, but you do not engage. You recognize the old triggers, but they no longer have a hold on you. This is the beginning of mastery. Cutting someone off silently teaches you something profound about yourself. Your peace is not something you negotiate anymore. You no longer bargain your serenity for connection. You no longer sacrifice your emotional well-being for the sake of being understood. You no longer remain in spaces that are not aligned with your growth. This is not hardness, it is clarity. It is the realization that your inner world is the source of your entire reality, and you will protect it with a devotion you did not have before. There is a quiet empowerment that takes root within you as you detach from the need to react. Suddenly, the world outside cannot dictate your mood because your center is anchored in something deeper than external events. Your peace becomes self-generated. Your stability becomes self-sustained. You are no longer moved by the tides of someone else's behavior. You begin to live from a place that is deeper than emotion, deeper than opinion, deeper than perception. You begin to live from awareness. As the old version of you fades, the people who were connected to that version may begin to fall away too. Do not resist this. The shedding is natural. When you stop reacting to certain behaviors, the people who depended on your reaction will no longer know how to engage with you. They may become confused, offended, or dismissive. They may accuse you of changing. And they are right, you are changing. You are no longer who you were when chaos had access to you. You are no longer who you were when you tolerated patterns that drained you. You are no longer who you were when you needed validation from outside yourself. Your silence is the evidence of your growth. You will notice that your mind begins to open up in new ways. Thoughts that once circled around conflict now circle around creation. Energy that once fueled arguments now fuels insights. Hours that were once wasted on worrying now become hours of inner expansion. The absence of reaction creates a spaciousness inside you, a spaciousness where higher thoughts can arise, where intuition becomes clearer, where creativity flows more naturally. This is the reward of staying silent. Your inner world becomes fertile. New ideas, new desires, new visions begin to form. You start imagining possibilities you had once been too drained to consider. You begin to feel a sense of direction returning to you. Life feels lighter, less crowded, more intentional. When you cut someone off silently, it is not the end of something. It is the beginning of something greater. You are clearing the field so new seeds can be planted. You are clearing your energy so new relationships can find you. You are clearing your mind so new perspectives can arise. Detachment is the soil in which transformation grows. As you move deeper into this state, you will begin to understand why silence is so misunderstood. It is not that silence is empty. It is that most people fear what they will hear in it. They fear the discomfort that arises when they face themselves without distraction. They fear the truth that emerges when the noise quiets down. But you, by embracing silence, have chosen to meet yourself. You have chosen to listen to the voice within you that had long been overshadowed by the noise of reaction. In silence, you meet your own power. You begin to understand that the one who reacts is the one who is controlled. The one who remains silent is the one who chooses. Reaction is automatic, silence is intentional, reaction is instinctual, silence is conscious, reaction is survival, silence is creation. And when you live from creation rather than reaction, your life begins to take a new shape. You begin to draw experiences that resonate with your inner calm. You begin to attract people who value your peace rather than disturb it. You begin to manifest opportunities that reflect your clarity instead of your chaos. There will be moments where your silence feels difficult. The ego will want to defend itself. It will want to correct the narrative. It will want to speak, argue, or prove something. But with time, you will learn that silence is not the absence of a voice. It is the presence of discipline. It is the refusal to waste breath where truth will not be heard. It is the understanding that not everyone deserves access to your emotional world. It is the knowing that your peace is worth more than being right. Your silence teaches you that peace is not something you find, it is something you choose. Every time you choose not to react, you reinforce the belief that your inner world is yours alone to govern. Every time you cut someone off silently, you remind yourself that you are no longer available for the conversations, the dynamics, the energies that once consumed you. Over time, you may even find gratitude for the people who pushed you to this point. They taught you what to walk away from. They taught you what drains you. They taught you what your boundaries must be. They taught you how to protect your energy. They taught you the strength of silence. They were part of your awakening. And now you rise above, not with anger, not with resentment, but with awareness. You begin to realize that true strength is quiet. True power does not need to announce itself. True confidence does not need to fight for recognition. The strongest person in the room is not the one who speaks the loudest. It is the one who remains unmoved. Your silence becomes a sanctuary that no one can invade. A fortress made not of walls, but of clarity. A space where your thoughts align with your desires, where your emotions align with your identity, where your vision aligns with your destiny. And from within this sanctuary, you begin to live differently. You make decisions with intention. You respond with purpose. You move with grace. You speak only when necessary. You choose your words carefully. You conserve your energy for what matters. You stop chasing people. You stop forcing connections. You stop explaining yourself to those committed to misunderstanding you. Your silence speaks for you. It communicates your worth, your stability, your depth. It lets the world know that you do not react, you choose. You do not chase, you align. You do not argue, you understand. You do not force, you trust. The world will begin to treat you differently. People will feel your energy before you even speak. They will sense the boundary without you having to state it. They will recognize the difference between the old version of you who reacted to everything and the new version of you who reacts to nothing that threatens your peace. This is the transformation that silence brings. This is the mastery that comes from cutting off what no longer serves you. This is the awakening that happens when you choose your inner world over the world outside. And with each silent step you take away from what drains you, you walk closer to the life you were meant to create. A life shaped not by reaction, but by intention, not by chaos, but by clarity, not by noise, but by the profound strength of your own stillness. In the end, the greatest power you will ever hold is the power to guard your inner world. When you choose not to react, when you cut them off silently, you are declaring to the universe that your peace is non-negotiable, your energy is sacred, and your evolution is unstoppable. This silence is not emptiness, it is elevation. It is the moment you step out of old patterns and into a higher realm of self-mastery. Let your silence speak the truth of your worth. Let your detachment open the path to your transformation. And let your refusal to react become the foundation of the life you are now ready to claim. Calm, powerful, and fully aligned with who you were always meant to become.